Well, hello everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Paul Parker. I am a Principal Marine Consultant in RSK's Marine team, working in the International Projects Group. About a month or so ago, I gave a webinar to the IPG team about some of my long distance running I've been doing and how I got into running and what I've learned that I can transfer to everyday life. And I touched upon a friend of mine, Sandy, who sadly took her own life, and I've been asked today to just talk a little bit about my experience of that. And the main aim of this is to help us to realise that it's okay to talk. It's okay to talk about these difficult topics. It's great to support each other, to support colleagues, and that it's absolutely fantastic to listen. It's quite strange being stood here at home staring into a camera, but I just hope by sharing a little bit of my experience I can just help everybody to talk about things a little bit more and to be as supportive to each other as we can. As many of you all know, the 10th of September is World Suicide Awareness Day. And sadly, I know that many of you will have some experience of suicide, supporting a friend, losing a loved one. And I briefly just wanted to share my experience to help us all to realise that it really helps to ask each other if we're okay. It really helps to support each other in an open and transparent way, wherever possible. On the 1st of June 2014, my wife and I received a phone call to tell us that a very good friend of ours from university had sadly taken her own life. And this absolutely devastated us. And what I want to talk to you about very briefly is how we dealt with that, what we learned from the experience, and how we can move forward to help others. I met Sandy through university. She was a great friend of my now wife, and they spent a lot of time training to be doctors together, supporting each other through the challenges of university life. In later life, we actually lived very close to each other, and Sandy and I had a mutual love of running, which was a great relief to the usual medical chat. Sandy loved the great outdoors and enjoyed many amazing adventures. She brought so much joy to so many people's hearts, but unfortunately couldn't bring that same joy to hers. She sought help and spoke openly about some of her struggles, and I'm so pleased that she managed to enjoy so many good times and enjoy so many adventures in the great outdoors. Unfortunately, her struggles became too much, and suddenly and shockingly, she took her own life on the 1st of June 2014. When we learned of Sandy's death, we were naturally devastated. I was angry, I was confused. I blamed myself. My wife and I spoke openly about it, and we knew deep down that we'd been there for Sandy, that we'd supported her when she needed support, and that we'd made the good times great and the harder times more bearable. Ultimately, I am sad that we couldn't change the outcome, but I am proud to say that I was Sandy's friend, and I'm proud of the adventures that we shared together. I'm also proud that I've been able to help celebrate her life. I'm proud of the running achievements I have achieved in her name and the adventures that I have had that I wouldn't have pushed myself to have done if it hadn't have been for Sandy. I am also proud of these conversations we're having. It's difficult to stand here. It's difficult to talk about these things. But I hope that we can just reflect that it's important. We can just reflect that it's okay to talk about these perhaps taboo subjects. It's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to ask for help and to be that person to listen and to give help. As I've already mentioned, Sandy and I used to love running together. We used to talk about our future races, our aspirations, of running our first marathon, of perhaps running that first marathon together. But sadly that never happened. After Sandy's death, I started to find it quite difficult to run. There's always been a time where I reflected, and it became a time that I reflected on the negatives. It became a time where I remembered the bad times. It became a time where I started to blame myself. However, through support of others, I decided to embark on the marathon and to run our first marathon for Sandy. Through some great friends and great support, a bit of a dream, I suppose, was born that I would run a marathon for myself and Sandy back to back. We then got carried away and I decided I'd run 100 miles from where Sandy used to live up into the Brecon Beacons where her ashes were scattered and back to where she used to work at the hospital in Cardiff. So, what motivated me to do this? Well, firstly, for Sandy, for the memory, for some charities that were very close to her, and perhaps quite importantly, for the ability to be able to talk about these things, to raise the profile of perhaps mental struggles. And lastly, probably selfishly for myself, to be able to clear my head, to be able to get over the difficulties I was finding in running and to be able to celebrate a great life. What motivated me to keep going? Well, it was that focus, it was that purpose, it was the people that were around me, supporting me forwards, knowing that I was helping to make a difference. It was also the freedom that being out on the trails gave me, the belief that I could do this and perhaps make a little difference, and trying to focus on the sense of achievement of running 100 miles. Having the destiny in my own hands, being able to focus on a single project really helped and motivated me to do that. Thinking again of the purpose of Sandy, of the fact that I could do this, and sadly no longer she could. And lastly, once I got into the training miles, over some of those initial struggles, what motivated me was the joy of being out there. I started to feel like a kid again, started to focus on the small things, started to have more of a spring in my step. Were there any dark times? Yeah. And what kept me going through those? Well, coping mechanisms, I guess. I remember a quote quite often when I'm out on a long run, having a difficult day, whether that is running or perhaps even in the office. And that's that happiness can be found in the darkest of places if we just remember to turn the light on. And that's really how I think about my coping mechanisms. It's finding that light switch and finding perspective. There isn't a race that goes by that I don't wish that she was running with me. But I am proud to have known Sandy. I'm proud to have been there for her, and I am proud that we managed to make the good times better and many of the bad times bearable. I've learnt a lot from the experience, and I think my takeaway is I've learnt to be more transparent. I've learnt to take myself less seriously, perhaps be a little less proud, and be happy to talk to people about how I'm feeling, about what I've experienced, about how they're feeling. I know you all have your own experiences. There's nothing unique about what I have said today. But if I can encourage one thing, be nice to each other. Listen to each other. And just treat each other how we would like to be treated.